Excited to be sipping tea with Maneet, Chauhan, who is legendary. I have so much to tell you about her. If you've seen her on Chopped, I want to show you her new book. She is a friend. She is a lover of justice and a great hostess. And later on, we'll be welcoming Alisa Bernard, who is our new head of public policy here for Thistle Farms. So it's going to be fun. And so we're going to take you through this ritual. But if you happen to be sipping tea all along the way, I understand. It's really good. So for me, this journey of really falling in love with tea began when we opened the cafe at Thistle Farms. So about almost 10 years ago now, I kept thinking about how we wanted to offer food and tea to people so that we could always connect folks through this idea of hospitality, which is central to any work of justice, that we see each other, that we receive and give love to one another. No better way to do that than through the gift of tea. And once I started really digging into the history of tea and learning about the connection between human trafficking and tea, I knew we had to do it in a different way, to be very, very intentional about the producers, the pickers, how tea is grown and made, and so that we can receive it in a healing and loving way. Tea has been a part of more than 3 religious philosophies throughout the world. There are beautiful tea ceremonies. Ours is a very, very simplified version, but we hope it's a way to remember that in community we can do this work better, and we can fortify our bodies, take some time, and enjoy this work as well. We want justice to be a way of life. We want to do this work together. So let me introduce Maneet. Welcome, welcome. Come on in this beautiful broadcast.
Hi, Becca. How are you doing?
Stop it. What are those earrings?
Ta-da-da. They are kettles only for you, in your honor.
Oh, they are beautiful. It is such an honor to have you. After our last tea party, we started talking about this Native American tea, Yopan. And then I got this amazing video from you. What was it? What happened?
It was amazing. I had gone to Palmetto Bluff, and we were, just getting a tour while, somebody started talking about it. So I just had to take a video, send it to you that, oh my God, I'm so excited. And if you hadn't told me about it, I would have not known about it. So I think that is the exciting part when, we share stories, when we share our experiences, we leave so much more enriched. And that's why these tea parties they're very special to me.
They are very special to me too. And I keep thinking about how it's this moment to ground ourselves for everybody on this chat, for everybody, to take a moment to maybe have a new idea, a new inspiration, and then you're open to new things like Yopan in the world.
I know.
Oh, so you have been up to amazing things, and I want you to catch us up. But I especially, before we get too started in the tea, want to say, oh my gosh, your new book.
Ta-da!
I am in love. It's a delicious book, everybody. This is the most beautiful book in the world. How did you have time in the midst of, being all over TV, all over the world, opening new restaurants? How did you do this?
You know what, to me, what I have realized is that the now is important. And this was very important to me because we went to India to, take photographs and collect information for this book. And this is my story. And it was important for me to share it. And, when things are important to you, you always make time for it.
I think that's true. I think it's like everybody's busy. Everyone is busy. I mean, I can be busy just organizing a closet. I can be busy doing whatever. So why not fill your time being busy with what is on your heart and mind?
Absolutely.
So can I just point out just 2 things really quick? Since this is World Justice Day, one of the pages that I loved, and I could talk about every page in this book, but you tell the story of your aunt. And in the story, you say that she is in the far east of India, and on her countertop, there was the joy of cooking.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how you know, like just in a kitchen, the whole world can come to you.
Absolutely. I always say that, if we have conversations just over food and tea, there would be no conflicts in the world, because in the end of the day, we all speak the same language, and that language is the love of something which nourishes you, right? And, as a kid, every summer holiday, we would go to Bangalore, which is, in southern India, and my aunt used to have the Joy of Cooking book, and I used to be so excited because I would take it out and I'm like, can we try this? Can we try this? I still remember there was a peach cashew praline cake that she used to make, which I'm like, and it used to be with canned peaches. And now I make it with, the amazing Georgian peaches that we get. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But those are the foundations that stay with you for life.
It's an American writer on a bookshelf in India writing about French cuisine.
Yeah,
That is beautiful. And I
beautiful.
can't believe that you're talking about canned peaches, but I'll let that part go.
It
You
was
know,
delicious at that time because I'd never had peaches before when we were in India. So I'm like,
oh my gosh.
wow, this is amazing.
Okay, I'm going to point out one more page that I'm just dying to talk about that relates to both the Tea Party and this idea of world justice. On this one page, you're starting to talk about the chai spice tea, which, that's my go to in the morning chai tea. I love it so much, just rich black coffee. And you talk about it that it was during the colonial era that the Indians really started drinking tea, and how they made it their own with their own spices. And that's
Yes.
how we got chai tea.
Yes, I mean, it is. I think we in India can't control our use of spice. Anything that comes to us, we're like, okay, let's go ahead and spice it up. But I think this is one of such a quintessential part of any Indian household is chai. I mean, right over here is this, you go to India and there are these beautiful earthen pots which are called kullars or kusoras, which are not baked, and that is what it is sold in, and it's just got this beautiful earthy flavor to it.
And the idea that, for me at least, is that, that was really an oppressive time under the colonial era for Indians. And the fact that they were producing this tea that was really part of the oppression.
Yeah.
But to still claim something as beautiful and healing by making it your own reminds me that, like in all the stuff that you do, it seems like it's about more than food. It's also about expressing our individuality and freedom, maybe.
Absolutely. And to me, the most incredible part about chai in India, especially, is the fact that it transcends any economic strata, any religious strata, any differences that people would have, because chai is consumed by everyone, no matter how rich you are, how poor you are. It has that accessibility to anyone. So to me, tea or chai is the greatest equalizer, because
Mm.
you are sipping tea, you go to a really fancy place and you get tea, and then you go to the street side and they are selling tea. So that is why it is like it symbolizes the fact that all humans are equal, and that's what is so exciting about it.
And it's what you're reminding me of that I think is so important to highlight for me today to remember justice is that we make something fancy out of leaf and water.
Yes.
And that's really adding the meaning, adding the beauty, adding the intention is part of what makes something not just leaf and water.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm
Process.
grateful for
Yes.
that. And so, one of the questions I had for you is we in this ceremony today, we want to hear from other people, and we want to have, if anybody has a chat, we are going to be reading them. And did you not say that you are welcome to answer any questions people have?
Absolutely, always. That's the fun part about it, right? I always love having a dialogue as opposed to a monologue.
Yes, absolutely. So as we go through this, you are open to answering any questions that people have. And Maneet says, if you want the best answer, don't prep her, just talk about it. So let's go ahead and start this beautiful, beautiful tea party. So thank you all for being here and enjoying this tea and remembering all the people in the world that are working for justice, especially for freedom for women. The first thing, it's a very four-part ritual. And the first one, of course, is to appreciate the vessels that we're drinking from. So, Maneet, can you tell us a little bit about your vessels?
Absolutely. So this is called a kullar. A kullar is an earthen pot, and in India, tea is sold street side in these. They are usually not glazed, they are just baked. And to me, the most incredible part is when you take that first sip, you get that smell of, of the earth, and you are one with the environment. And it is just that sensory experience, that taste of the milky spicy tea, which is sweet and it's got different flavors in it, but also mixed with earth. That sensory experience is just, everything in the world is balanced. It's just right.
That is so beautiful. And you and I are one as well, because I too have picked an earthen vessel to drink from Oaxaca, Mexico. I was there in October, and this vessel comes in a couple sizes. You can see there's a thistle on this one that they wait. How do I do it where you can see it this way?
Oh,
It
that's
says thistle
beautiful.
on it. So the women in Oaxaca don't glaze these as well. This is like a 4,000-year-old tradition, and these are sacred to me. And it's from Collective 1050, and that's like 1900 degrees Fahrenheit ovens, and so it's baked and they don't need to glaze it. So it's exactly like you're saying. What I love is the heat. You can feel the heat so well, and the color even changes when liquid is inside it because it is just the earth.
Right.
So we are really drinking from the earth today. I'm very, very excited about that. And I hope everybody has a beautiful vessel that they can appreciate. And if you want, we can put up on the chat where you can get these beautiful vessels from right at Thistle Farms. So I love this. So that's step one. What is it that we're drinking from, and how do we appreciate the potters and the women that have created these beautiful vessels to drink from? And now we're going to take a moment to appreciate the tea itself. So, Maneet, can you tell us what tea you're going to drink today with us?
I am going to be drinking a cardamom and a rose tea. There is this dynamic young lady in Atlanta who has a company which is called Chai Box, and she gets all of these incredible teas and spices from southern India, where her husband is from, and just mixes it. And so, yes, this is what I am going to be drinking. It's black
She's in Atlanta.
in Atlanta. Yeah, that's where her business is.
Oh my gosh, that is really great. So you can get Indian teas right in Atlanta
Yes,
from
and she
Monica
blends these, and she blends all of these. It's called the chai box.
Chai Box. I'm
Yes,
there. I'm going to
yes.
order. I
It,
love That's awesome. That is really good news. I'm going to be drinking my pure moringa from Mexico that I have been drinking, I think, every tea party you and I have done, because I'm so in love with the women there. And the big news that I want to share right here is that this is the first time. It's been 5 years we've been working with the women there. They have been offered the opportunity to buy the land that they have the moringa trees on.
oh my God, that gives me goosebumps.
And
That's
there were 3 or 4 donors who were part of this tea party, including Franny and Tara and a couple others, who made it possible for them to buy the land. So they're landowners. So this really is a beautiful way to drink tea. And it's a reminder that there's not really a World Justice Day, it's years. It's about patient and faithful investments, and for us to keep drinking tea and keep drinking tea and keep doing this, and then change happens. But I'm very happy about that.
oh my God, that's amazing.
It is amazing. And now the next step is, obviously we have to always remember the people that we would love to share a cup of tea with to enlarge this circle. So what I'm hoping is that you can share with us, who is it that you wish you could be sharing this cup of tea with right now?
I have my nice hot cuppa. of chai right over here. And I'm really wishing that I was sharing this cup with my mom-in-law, with my aunt, with my grandmoms, all of these incredible ladies who are responsible for me being who I am today. They showed me that it could be done, but through example, and that's why I'm here.
That is so beautiful. And I think I want to lift up on this day the person I'm really been missing lately is my sister. Her name, she was the oldest of five kids, and my mom raised all five of us alone. She was 35 when my dad was killed. And a lot of the responsibility landed on my older sister. And she died at like 56 years old. She had an aneurysm and just died. And we all just kept going and we mourned her. But as the years have passed, and she was 7 years older than I was, I'm starting to realize that as I am right at, the same age as she was, it's like how much more she had to live. And she was brilliant and funny. And I'd like to talk to her now about this phase of our lives when our kids are getting big and leaving the house, and I miss her. And so I toast to Katie Garrett, my sister. So we're going to let this tea steep. Everybody pouring your tea and enjoying it. You can drink it as you want. And as you steep it, as we pour the water, everybody has got their own way that they need to steep. Do you have a particular way that you steep tea, Maneet?
I actually, when I make chai, I boil the tea leaves along with the water and then put milk in it. So it's almost like milk tea. Yeah. So we do it on the stovetop.
Yum. That sounds amazing. So while we sip our tea and while we drink it, I want on this World Day of Justice, I want to introduce you, Maneet, to our beautiful new Director of Public Policy. Her name is Alisa. She's in DC joining us. Alisa, are you there?
I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Alisa.
Are
Hello.
you drinking any tea right now?
So it is 5:18 here. So I have opted for chamomile to avoid the midnight run. So
Yeah, you don't want to have to stay up too late. And that's the nice thing about moringa too, is that there's no, it's an herbal concoction, like tincture, they say. But we are here so that you can help us talk about love in action, about how love is practical, sustainable, how it is scalable, and how even as we're sipping our tea, we can be thinking about the larger issues of justice and how we can all be together. So, Maneet, meet Alisa, Maneet.
Hi, Alisa. Alisa, I have a question for you. What is the most meaningful part of your work?
oh, that is such an amazing question, Maneet. I'm very privileged in that I get a ton of really great parts of my work that immerse me in the community and allow me to meet new people and meet other survivors. And I think that the part of my work that I love the most is recognizing like what liberation is. Liberation isn't something that you can give. If freedom is given, it turns it into kind of a commodity. And so the favorite part of my work is giving tools and skills to survivors and then taking my cues of leadership from them. I recognize that survivors together should be leading the way on this. So that unity that we get with that comes from a shared understanding that, all women share experiences walking through this world. And it's not just survivors of trafficking, it's not just survivors of prostitution or the worst forms of violence, it's all of us. And so
Yes.
getting to work with those women and having those conversations and, finding ways that we can mobilize together, that's easily my favorite part of doing this work.
So, what are some of the practical things and practical ways that we can do that together? Tell us.
Well, I think a lot of it just comes down to, well, it boils down to, excuse my pun, kind of coming together more. Women have historically been very discouraged from convening. We're constantly reminded that we shouldn't be involved or that we're not capable of having both a family and a career. And I think that buying into that really holds us back. And I think if we want to make real change, we really need to embrace our power as this global community of women that you're talking about. Like, again, all women have experienced gender-based violence of some kind, even if it only showed up as a sexist joke. As terrible as that is, there's unity in that. And I think that we can harness that and stand together. And it transcends just loving the women it goes into loving all of our sisters. And we can turn that love into collective action.
Yes.
And it is so important, especially with the next generation, to show them the way. I mean, it is for the longest time we've just continued doing what we've been told, and the fact is to tell them that it's okay. It's okay to break those barriers. It's okay to break those chains, and I think that is very important.
Well, and you've broken quite a few chains, Maneet. I mean, recognizing that you've broken a lot of glass ceilings, I'll say, in that way. And, you're operating in an industry that has been predominantly male run for most of its history. So I'm curious, like, kind of how you have brought together community and specifically communities of women and advocacy kind of through that lens. What has that been like for you?
I think to me, one of the biggest things has been, like to all of us, it's been leading by example. I realized that I just couldn't be sitting over here and saying that, oh, I didn't get the opportunity. Okay, go out, create the opportunity. And it is so important right now to do that because, to me, I have a 10-year-old daughter, right? She sees me and realizes that it is possible, right? Like you were earlier mentioning work-life balance. It is possible. It is how you figure it out because there's always a solution. It's really funny. Every morning when I drop her to school, she opens the door and I turn. I'm like, there are no, it's like problems, only solutions. I'm like, yes, you have to remember that because these might be sayings, right? There is a saying I have at the end of my email, which is when I first got my email in 1998, and I'm dating myself, and it was nothing ventured, nothing gained. And that's how I've lived my life. Jump in the deep end, you will figure out how to swim because you have the will to survive. And that's what it's been. I have come across a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't think you can do it. I'm like, really? Okay, great. Let me just show you how it's done right. So that's what it's all about.
I love it. I think that's so important to be able to show that next generation. When we talk about, that kind of work at Thistle Farms, like a lot of the times we're talking about that next woman. And I want to make the world make the world a better place for that next woman. I want that next woman to walk in our door with a few less barriers in front of her. And that means that we need to change the world to work better for survivors rather than just giving survivors the skills to operate better in the world. I love that. I think that's fabulous, Maneet.
And I think one of the biggest things is community, because at times people feel so alone. The fact that there is a community, even now what we are doing, we are a community just drinking tea, and just that camaraderie and that kinship is it's so profound, right? Like the last time, Becca, we did this tea, ceremony, I think for the next 2 days, I had this silly grin on my face because it was, you feel nourished. And in the end of the day, that's what it is about. Tea ceremonies, they just leave us nourished.
I think so. And I think for me is like, if we are going to have a voice and do this practical work together for the next generation, we have to carve out space to have a thought. I literally the other day wrote a piece about I can't get a thought in Edgewise because there's so much noise and there's so much people telling you what the right answer is or what to think. And these global justice issues can be overwhelming. And so for me, if I can find a space, have a ritual of a cup of tea that is about justice, I can actually have a thought, which is a miracle to me sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm having a thought right now.
Becca, I mean, I think you bring up a really good point about that, just having that space to do that. And you've created a really special space for survivors and honestly for our whole community in Nashville. Sometimes I get a little sad that I'm out here in DC and I don't get to, sit in circle with everyone every week. And I know that when I first started doing this, Hal, our CEO, had told me that he wanted our community to do more. He wanted to go past just, the singular acts, those single person acts. And I'm curious, how does Thistle Farms advocacy work fit into your original vision for Thistle Farms?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you're doing a beautiful work up there, and you are in the circle, and Maneet is in the circle, and everybody is, because the original vision was never about just helping a subculture of women. It's exactly what you were saying, Alisa. It was about making the world change so that, we can all be healthier. It was never about helping a subculture of women. It was always about being able to challenge a culture that still buys and sells women as commodities, about not keeping secrets for child sexual abuse. It's about not saying that we are just going to turn away because the issues feel too big or they're too old. You mean, what's older than tea? Nothing. It's the oldest cultivated plant in the world. And so I feel like while we are nourishing ourselves and doing this, we're going back to an original vision. And that is exactly what Maneet's saying. It's community. It's all of us coming together. And I want to say one more thing about what y'all said that I think is really important for everybody drinking tea with us today. And that is, you don't have to feel overwhelmed or it's like on your back somehow to change the world. That really the calling is to love the world, just to love it. And we have to keep being willing to change. And we have to keep remembering one of the lessons that Maneet teaches better than anybody, which is it's not that it's heroic. It's that we are amazing hosts. We are hosts. We set the table so that people can be their own heroes. And that's what Elisa is saying too, is that it is the survivor leaders leading the way. And all of us together are hosts so that people get to be their own hero.
Yeah, totally.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So, what we want to do is, I think, first of all, I want to know if Elisa, if people want to get in touch with you and figure out how to get involved, I don't know. I know that this isn't on my script, so I'm a little bit confused, just so you know. I know that we're going to be answering some questions, but I also want to say, what's the first step? If we want to move into this advocacy work, what's my first step?
Well, I mean, that's a little different. I've tapped into many times already. What I would say is the first step, if anybody is interested, going on to Thistle Farms website and going to the Advocate. It's right up at the top on the left-hand side, and click on that. And in that, you'll find a link where you can actually sign up for our newsletter. We're working on updating that page right now with our newest initiatives and policy priorities. We'll have petitions to sign. We'll have ways that you can get involved. And honestly, I always say that the best way to get involved is to start having these conversations on a daily basis. You're sitting at your coffee shop and the person next to you, why not ask them how they feel about something? I think that a lot of the times we feel so nervous about having these conversations, but the only way we can really start to, grasp how we feel about them and grasp how the world feels about them is to build that community. So I always say, first step, go onto Thistle Farms website. Second step, go to your local chai shop if you're lucky enough to have one, and then have a conversation with somebody next to you about a hard topic. See what you can distill in that.
That's beautiful. That's so doable. I love that you didn't say I had to go to my senator's office and talk about a bill that I don't feel comfortable speaking about yet. Because if they ask one question, I'm going to say, can you call? Here's Elise's number. I would like you to call her.
Yeah, I have a lot of survivor friends who ask me, like, how can we get involved? I'm like, first you need to be able to speak to this topic and be able to not just tell your story, but you need to tell a larger story. Again, it's recognizing that all women have experienced gender-based violence. And it's not just your one experience. We've got to shine the light on this for literally all women walking through the world. And so being able to start those like easy, low barrier low risk conversations. You never have to talk to that person at the coffee shop ever again. That's a good place to get started instead of going immediately to a senator. So, but anybody
Absolutely.
can totally email me if you're interested in doing that. I will help.
That's awesome. Can I ask a question of you, Maneet, real quick?
Yes, please.
So, one of the questions that I really am one thinking, I've been thinking about it, and Elise and I actually said maybe someday we'll write a book together. Instead of just farm to table, it's farm to table to story, and how the more things that we set our tables with, whether it's our private homes or a restaurant, what we put on these tables that has a story also enhances the food. You know, that it's all of those things. It's not just the food, but it's also the vessels. And so one of my questions is, do you spend time like thinking about the things that you're putting on the table in addition to food? I know that you have your beautiful teacup, but is that how, when you open restaurants, you think about that, and you, how does that work?
I mean, absolutely. One of the biggest things is that in terms of being a restaurateur and a chef, you realize that you first consume the food through your eyes or the atmosphere through the eyes. So it is very important because we believe that when you walk into a place, it needs to be welcoming. Because again, as you were saying, we are hosting you. We are the hosts. So we are welcoming you to the place. And it's all the small details from, if it is an Indian restaurant, then getting, Indian kettles, or just the heritage. So I do think that that's very important. Also, I've got some friends who do these beautiful pottery and stuff, and we just try to encourage them, try to support their business, give their information to everybody. So I think that's what it's all about. Again, one of the biggest things I tell everybody is a rising tide raises all ships. And in a way, if we can be the tide, we are going to raise all the ships for the future generation,
Hmm.
right? Which is important, and that's where the voice is. Alicia, you were earlier saying that go to a tea shop and talk to somebody right next. What I do is, and my daughter always pulls my leg about it, I make it a point that anybody who I see, especially women, I just smile and just ask them, how are you doing? Because I can't tell you, everybody um, is going through a struggle, right? Just one random act of kindness could change a person's day. And if you are responsible for it, great, you've done your good deed for the day. So that is, right now we were at Publix, and that's what I was telling my daughter. I was like, I acknowledged each and every person and just make the eye contact, because then that person feels seen. And that at times is one of the biggest things. When people start thinking that they are not seen, then they start feeling invisible. And nobody in this world is invisible.
Nobody.
No.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And I love the sentiment that is truly that it's simple things that can change people's lives. Because I mean, there's so much rhetoric, and people intellectualize in beautiful ways, but also in ways that debilitate people. Sometimes it gets so complicated. And I always go back to the story of one of the leaders at Thistle Farms came to the program because somebody handed her a bag of potato chips while she was walking down the street. They handed her a bag of chips. And that's, sometimes it's a bag of chips, sometimes it's a cup of tea. And like you said, sometimes it's a kind word. And I think when Elisa says that about having a conversation, a brave, beautiful, vulnerable conversation with somebody to test the waters and to talk and connect, it does change lives. I believe it. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's such an important um, kind of thing to lean into in our lives is having those brave conversations and reaching out and seeing how we can, find those connections. Like I saw in the comments, somebody had asked a question about well, all women have experienced gender-based violence, and they put a question mark next to it. And I think that, there's a unity within our experience as women just walking through the world. And I think that the thing that I want to point out with that is just that this violence exists on a continuum. You know, it ranges from leering, getting leered at, or wolf whistled, or cat called, all the way up through very extreme forms of violence. And you know, we all kind of live within the margins within this, and we have to recognize that that is something that can impact us just as much as like a wonderful "How was your day, Maneet?" That type of thing also impacts us and how we walk through the world. And I think that we have a lot of shared community even in that experience. And I think you're right. Love is the most powerful force for change. So let's bring some more love into this rather than all of that. Aww.
Thank you, Alisa. So we are going to take a few moments and y'all, this is so crazy. All these comments coming in. I'm learning how I'm a little bit ADHD or whatever. And so I go like this. Isn't it crazy to read them while we're doing it? It's so fun. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for everybody. We're going to be giving away a gift at the end of this in just a few minutes, and we're closing in. And one of the things I'd like us to do at the end is to make sure that we're saying to people, let yourself be nourished by this tea. And so we have our final piece of the ritual for this tea party is a toast with the tea. And the toast is, tea steeps in justice while women raise their glasses. Let us drink to survivors and celebrate women around the world. Let us praise tea growers, pickers, and producers who awaken our palates for justice. Let us honor the crafters and artisans who offer beauty and economic freedom. Let us hearken to the voice that calls us from farm to table to story. Let us bow to advocates and troublemakers who clear paths for new generations. Let us be brave enough to sip tea and claim there is healing from violence and oppression. Let us toast women who conjure a dream of freedom with more courage than fear. Let us raise our cups to the mother line of love that is the most powerful force for change. Here's to you guys. Now, Maneet, if we do another tea party, one question I have for you, give me an assignment. What tea might I be thinking about for our next tea party? Like, let's say perhaps there was something in this book that I could research and study about for the next tea party. So I'm ready for you.
Right over here. This is a kava. Kava is a Kashmiri tea made with green tea. And because it is, it's really cold in Kashmir, this has things, spices which warm you. So think about cloves and cardamom and saffron and rose and honey. And this is absolutely beautiful. If I'm around for the next tea ceremony, I'm going to get some over, and maybe we can do the tea ceremony actually together. That would be so much fun.
I would love that. And we'll have to fly Tanya in too. Hey, so let me say to everybody, keep drinking tea, keep loving each other. Let's continue to be supportive and active with each other in this work that will take all of our lives. And let us not get thirsty on that. You guys are great. And Alisa, thank you for joining us. What a gift it is to have you. I love you both. And thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.